Something unusual is happening in Demet Özdemir's new series. At least, that is what thousands of longtime fans have started to believe. When the first scenes and promotional images appeared, viewers were naturally focused on Demet's new character, her performance, the story, and everything surrounding the project. There seemed to be nothing mysterious about it, until someone paused one particular scene. Hidden in the background was a tiny detail almost everyone had ignored. A number. 7. Normally, something like this would mean absolutely nothing. Television sets are filled with numbers, photographs, books, decorations, and random objects. But longtime followers of Demet immediately began discussing whether the number could have a deeper meaning. And then another detail appeared, then another. Within a surprisingly short time, fans claimed they had identified 7 separate clues scattered throughout the series. But the number of clues wasn't the most interesting part. According to the growing fan theory, they all seemed to point toward one person, Can Yaman. The connection immediately brought back memories of Turkish, the series that made Can and Demet one of the most unforgettable screen couples for audiences around the world. Years have passed. Both actors have continued their careers, and their lives have taken different directions, but their fans have never completely stopped looking back. And now, they believe Demet's new project contained subtle echoes of that past. The first supposed code was the number 7 itself. Some fans connected it with the years separating the present. From the era that made Can and Demet an international phenomenon by itself, that proves nothing. Then came code number 2. During another scene, fans spotted an object positioned behind Demet that reminded them of imagery from Turkish. Screenshots from both productions were quickly placed side by side. The objects weren't identical, but the visual similarity was enough to make people curious. Then someone discovered the third alleged code. A clock appeared briefly on screen. Most viewers probably never even looked at it. Fans did. They paused the scene and began connecting the displayed time with dates and numbers they considered meaningful in the history surrounding Can and Demet. Suddenly, the conversation changed. 1 coincidence could easily be ignored. 2 could still be accidental. But 3, fans started wondering whether they were supposed to be noticing these things. From that moment, every episode became an investigation. People examined background objects, wardrobe choices, music, dialogue, colors, and even Demet's smallest expressions. And that search produced code number 4. During one scene, Demet's character delivered a line that sounded completely natural within the story, but longtime followers remembered something. They believed they had heard remarkably similar words. Connected with Can years earlier, old clips resurfaced, comparisons began spreading, and suddenly, the 7 code theory was no longer confined to one strange number in the background. There appeared to be a pattern. Still, none of this proved Demet was deliberately sending any message. Writers, directors, editors, and production designers control countless details inside a television series, but then fans discovered the 5th code. This one wasn't hidden somewhere behind Demet. It wasn't written on a wall, and it wasn't simply another number. It appeared to be connected directly to Demet herself. When fans placed an old image next to the new scene, the resemblance immediately caused another wave of speculation. Because if the 5th clue really was intentional, only 2 remained. And according to the fans who continued searching, the 7th code would change the meaning of everything they had discovered. The first 4 clues had already created a mystery, but the 5th supposed code was different. Until this point, almost every detail could easily have been explained as a production choice. A number in the background could have been random. A familiar object could have been selected by the set designers. Even a line of dialogue resembling something from the past could simply have been a coincidence. But code number 5 appeared to involve Demet herself. During one particular scene, fans noticed a small detail in her appearance. Nothing about it seemed unusual at first. Demet looked exactly as the scene required, and most viewers continued watching without giving it another thought. Longtime followers, however, stopped. Something looked familiar. Fans began searching through old photographs, interviews and scenes from the Erkenci Kuş era. Eventually, someone found an image that seemed to match what they had noticed. The comparison quickly began circulating. One side was Demet today, on the other was an image connected to the period when she and Can Yaman were creating the unforgettable story of Sanem and Can. It wasn't identical, but the resemblance was enough to fuel the theory. Some fans believed the styling detail was a deliberate callback to that era. Others argued that people were simply connecting two unrelated images because they wanted to find a hidden meaning. Both explanations were possible. But then viewers asked a much bigger question. What if none of the codes were supposed to make sense individually? What if they were pieces of the same puzzle? The number 7, the familiar object, the mysterious time, the dialogue, and now Demet's appearance. 5 different details, all being connected by fans to the same chapter of her past. That idea pushed the investigation toward code number 6. This time, viewers weren't looking at Demet, they were listening. During an emotional sequence, background music began playing as Demet's character moved through an important moment. Some fans immediately felt they had heard something familiar, not necessarily the exact melody, not the exact song, but the emotional atmosphere reminded them strongly of scenes between Sanem and Can. Within hours, fan edits began appearing. Old Erkenci Kuş moments were placed beside scenes from Demet's new project. The similarities were emotional rather than exact, but that almost made the theory more powerful, because nostalgia doesn't always come from identical images. Sometimes it comes from a feeling, a particular silence, a look, music entering at exactly the right moment, and suddenly, viewers remember a story they watched years ago. 6 codes had now supposedly been identified. Only one remained, and that created a new question. If the number 7 had appeared at the beginning of the mystery, could it have been more than the first clue? Could it actually have been telling fans how many clues to search for? That possibility sent viewers back through the series again. Scenes were slowed. Down-cut trailers were analyzed frame by
frame. Promotional photographs were enlarged. Even
Demet's smallest movements were examined. For a while, nothing convincing appeared. Then someone noticed a tiny moment. Near the end of an emotional scene, Demet made a brief gesture just before the camera changed. It lasted only seconds. Most viewers had completely missed it. But longtime fans immediately remembered something. They had seen a similar gesture before, years earlier, and Can Yaman had been part of that memory. Fans began searching old footage until one clip suddenly resurfaced. When the two moments were placed side by side, the 7th code theory exploded. Because this wasn't a number chosen by a designer. It wasn't a prop. It wasn't background music. It was a human gesture. And according to fans, understanding that gesture was the key to understanding all 7 codes. But there was still one mystery left. If these clues really formed a message, what was Demet supposedly trying to say to Can? Once fans believed they had identified all 7 codes, the investigation entered a completely different phase. Finding the clues was no longer enough. Now, everyone wanted to know what they meant. Were these simply nostalgic references to Erkenci Kuş? Were they coincidences created by fans who still loved Can and Demet together? Or was there actually a hidden message connecting the 7 details? The 7th clue became the center of the discussion. Fans returned to the brief gesture Demet made during the emotional scene and compared it with older footage. To longtime followers, the similarity felt immediately familiar. But one important fact remained. There was no confirmation from Demet that the gesture had anything to do with Can. That didn't stop the theories. In fact, the uncertainty made them grow even faster. Some viewers began arranging all 7 clues in the order they appeared. First came the number 7, then the familiar object, the mysterious time, the line of dialogue, the detail connected to Demet's appearance, the emotional musical atmosphere, and finally, the gesture. When fans looked at them together, they began interpreting the clues not as 7 independent references, but as 7 pieces of one emotional timeline. And that timeline seemed strangely familiar. It began with memory, Then came recognition, then nostalgia, and finally, something that looked almost like a silent acknowledgement of the past. One theory quickly became more popular than the others. According to those fans, Demet wasn't necessarily sending Can a romantic message. Instead, they believed the references could represent something much simpler. "I haven't forgotten." Those 3 words completely changed the interpretation, because remembering someone doesn't automatically mean wanting to return to them. It doesn't prove a secret relationship, and it certainly doesn't mean Can and Demet are communicating through television scenes. But acknowledging an important chapter of your life is something entirely different, and nobody can deny how important the Erkenci Kuş era became for both stars. Professionally, for Demet, Sanem remains one of the characters international audiences strongly associate with her. For Can, the role of Can Divit helped introduce him to an enormous audience outside Turkey. Together, they created moments that fans are still discussing years later. That history exists. Whether the 7 code theory is true or not, but another group of fans went much further. They believed the order of the clues mattered. Some began assigning a meaning to each one. 7 represented time. The object represented memory. The clock represented a specific moment. The dialogue represented words left unsaid. The styling detail represented Demet herself. The music represented emotion, and the final gesture represented Can. Put those interpretations together, and fans believed they had discovered a hidden sentence without a single sentence actually being written. It was exactly the kind of theory social media loves. Mysterious enough to debate, emotional enough to share, and impossible to prove completely. But then something else happened. Fans began checking Demet's recent interviews and public appearances. They weren't only searching for references to Can anymore. They were paying attention to how she reacted whenever questions about her past projects appeared. A pause suddenly mattered. A smile became suspicious. A carefully chosen answer became another potential clue. And one particular moment attracted enormous attention. Demet was discussing how certain projects and people can remain important parts of your journey even after life moves forward. She didn't need to mention Can. Fans made the connection themselves. For supporters of the theory, it felt like the missing context behind the 7 codes. For skeptics, it proved nothing at all. And perhaps that is exactly why the mystery became so powerful. There was enough to make people wonder, but never enough to provide a definitive answer. However, one final question remained. Did Can notice any of this? Because fans soon turned their attention toward him, and what they discovered created an entirely new wave of speculation. Once fans had created a complete theory around the 7 supposed codes, attention immediately shifted in another direction. Demet was no longer the only person being analyzed. Now everyone wanted to know one thing. Had Can Yaman noticed any of this? There was no public confirmation from Can, suggesting that he had seen the theories or interpreted anything in Demet's new series as a message directed toward him. But for fans, that didn't end the mystery. It created another one. They began watching Can's public appearances, interviews, and social media activity more carefully, searching for anything that could be interpreted as a reaction, a photograph, a song, a caption. Even the timing of a post suddenly became part of the discussion. Some viewers believed they had noticed interesting coincidences. Others argued that the theory had now gone too far, and that distinction is important because there is a huge difference between an entertaining fan theory and confirmed reality. Neither Demet nor Can has publicly confirmed that these 7 details form a secret message between them. The codes remain interpretations created by viewers, but perhaps that is exactly what makes the story so fascinating. Years after Erkenci Kuş, people are still watching these 2 actors closely, enough to notice a tiny object in the background, or a gesture lasting only a few seconds. That says something about the impact Sanem and Can had on audiences. Their story wasn't forgotten. When the final episode ended, for millions of viewers around the world, it became a memory attached to a particular period of their lives. And whenever something reminds them of that period, the emotions return. This may explain why the 7 code theory spread so quickly, maybe Demet intentionally referenced her past. Maybe members of the production included subtle Easter eggs, or maybe none of the similarities were planned at all. All three possibilities remain open, but there is one especially interesting detail. Even if every supposed code turns out to be coincidence, fans still manage to connect 7 completely separate moments to the same story. That shows just how strongly Demet and Can remain linked in the memories of their audience. The number, the object, the time, the dialogue, Demet's styling, the music, and finally, the gesture. 7 details, one enormous theory and a mystery without a confirmed answer. Perhaps that's how it should remain, because sometimes the most powerful television memories aren't the ones explained directly. They're the ones that leave viewers asking questions years later. Was Demet secretly remembering a chapter of her life that changed everything? Were the production team simply playing with nostalgia? Or did fans find connections that were never intentionally placed there? Until Demet herself says otherwise, nobody can know for certain. And as for Can, maybe he noticed, maybe he didn't. But if he ever watches those scenes and recognizes the same details that thousands of fans believe they discovered, only he will know what they truly mean to him. One thing, however, is undeniable. 7 years later, people are still talking about Can Yaman and Demet Özdemir. New series have arrived. New characters have been created. Their careers have continued in different directions. But somehow, a single number, a familiar gesture, or a few seconds of music can still bring millions of viewers back to Sanem and Can, and maybe that is the real secret behind the 7 codes. Not a hidden declaration, not proof of a secret relationship, but proof that some television stories simply refuse to disappear.